the time. All right, let me just double check, make sure we're live. Oh, appreciate the approval. Turn the volume down. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here on the Veteran Influencers channel. Once again, Chris LEVINE, and today we have something extremely special for you guys, and I want to verify that we are actually live because sometimes the status doesn't like to update. But today we have an actual special type workshop type / live for you guys, and a lot of you guys have actually requested that we do something more that's going to give you guys something specific to educate you guys on things that we do in the military. So if you guys can do me a huge favor before we actually go into the introductions, go ahead and share out the post. If you're able to go on to the YouTube, it kind of helps with the comments, and also like the likes helps to push the videos out. But wherever you're at, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and share the video out. So take about 2 minutes, please, and do that for me. All right, I'm just going to verify Facebook real quick. And it is kind of hot in here. And I like the way that Facebook actually does it now. They have like the subtitles that kind of pop up. I mean, there's like a little section you added to, but it's got like the subtitles that pop up now. It's like a whole thing where people like to see the words, you know, as they listen to it. So whatever, I like it. I likes it. Like I said, please share this video out. Help for everybody to see it. There's a lot of people that were requesting these videos and the actual live workshops. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. All right. I don't want to take up too much time, but let me go into the showers. So like I said, welcome back to another episode here on the Veteran Influencer channel. Once again, Chris LEVINE. And today we have, like I said in the intro, today we have an actual special episode where we're going to be doing like a live workshop. And this is to help kind of answer a lot of the questions that people have been asking when it comes to like actual fitness reports. And today I was blessed to be able to get two great instructors that actually taught at the Staff Academy. And before we go into the introduction, I want to give a couple shout outs to some other veterans that have been doing big things in the community and that continue to give back. So as you guys can see on the bottom, Semper Fresh Clothing, one of my good friends, he was a prior sergeant in the Marine Corps. His name is Kadeem Walker. He has his own clothing line called Semper Fresh Clothing. His link is down below if you do want to support another veteran. He's constantly updating the type of clothing that he wears, or the type of clothing designs that he comes out with. Absolutely amazing, and stuff that you can wear all year long. So big shout out to him. All right, our next shout out is going to be from Brainstorm Fitness. The guy that owns Brainstorm Fitness is also a veteran. He's a prior sergeant in the Marine Corps, prior drill instructor. His name is George Anthony Dula Whiteway. He also owns his own gym in San Diego, California. So if you guys are interested in increasing your mobility, flexibility, and just overall fitness, George Anthony would be a great person, great trainer, and great. He's always able to facilitate great results. So George Anthony Dula Whiteway, Brainstorm Fitness in San Diego, California. Check him out. All right. Our next shout out is going to be from Macassier Clothing. He is a Master Gunner Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, and he has a clothing line called Macassier Clothing. It's definitely the upper level clothing, amazing designs and high quality. If you want to check it out, here's a link down below. You can go ahead and do so. And all these links I'll have in the description as well. And our last shout out is going to be from Leroy Brown Art. Once again, another veteran. He was a prior Gunner Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, met him in Japan, and his artwork is absolutely amazing. So if that's something you want to support, there's a link down here. Make sure you guys check it out. All right, let me go to. All right, so let me go ahead and get rid of this. So as you guys see in that link down below where it says donate at, do not feel obligated to donate, but if you do, just know that it does go back to the channel, and it goes back to each and every one of you guys, whether it's through giveaways or whether it's through purchasing new gear or software in order to enable these live videos. So, all right, awesome. All right, so like I said, I appreciate you guys joining. Those that you have, please do me a favor. If you're just joining us, make sure you guys go out there and share the video out, help to support the channel, help for the feed to go out to as many people as possible. Thank you guys for the numbers that we do have here in the chat. But hey, I don't want to make this too much about me. So today we do have two special instructors, and they both taught at one point at I think you guys are both currently there still, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Seth, just so you know, you're still muted. I don't know if you... Okay, cool. So they both teach currently at the Staff Academy, and their actual teaching package is the actual fitness report. So, you know, we're going to get absolute amazing instruction from them. So actually, if we'll go ahead and put it to this format right here. Oh, see, how can I make it to where it's just like, my apologies. I'm trying to figure out how I can make it to where it's just... There we go. All right, Amanda, can you do me a favor and introduce yourself? Let the people know where you're from and just some basic information about yourself.
Hey, absolutely, Chris. So my name's Amanda Kirkham. I'm a Staff Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. I'm currently stationed at the Camp Pendleton Staff NCO Academy. I teach the PES package, like you said. Originally, I'm a 3051 Supply Marine. I've been in for about 14 and a half years, and I'm from the backwoods on the bayou in Louisiana, actually. So nice to meet y'all.
Hey, absolutely. Truly appreciate you, and thank you for joining us here on the channel today. All right. And our next instructor we have is Seth. Seth, can you do me a favor? Go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. I'm like Amanda, just in 29 Palms, right down here in a much smaller academy, but a much better academy down here in the desert. So I'm originally from North Carolina. Been in the Marine Corps for 14 years. I've taught the PES. I've been at the academy for 3 years now. I actually leave in September, and I've been teaching this thing since 2018. So I consider myself to be pretty familiar with the PES. Not that I know it all, and anything that I try to talk about today is going to come straight from the PES. And anything we can answer, I guarantee you can find in that Marine Corps order. But I'm looking forward to sharing some knowledge today.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like I said, once again, I truly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to give back to the community. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna get the proper screen on there, and the floor is yours.
All right, so we'll start here. Just before we get started, the main thing again is know the order. Okay, Marine Corps Order 1610.7 Alpha. There is so much detail in that thing, and unlike a lot of Marine Corps orders that you want to read or are forced to read, they can be dry. This is one of those that will never get dry because we all have finished reports, and this is kind of close to home to absolutely everybody. So I'm in this order at least once a week, not just because I teach it, but I mean, I have a finished report. I'm one of the rare instances of an enlisted Marine who is an RS2. So I'm going to talk to you from a MRO perspective and from an RS perspective today. But before we jump into it, and we're all on the same page, right? Some terminology that we need to cover before we kind of get into it so nobody gets lost. MRO, obviously Marine reported on, and that's you, the person of the finished report. RS, reporting senior, that next level supervisor who owns your finished report. And RO, that reviewing officer who's the next higher up supervisor from your RS. Those are the three main things that if you're a brand new to the PES and to finished reports, you are going to get lost in the next 20 or so minutes. So terminology up front is anything I missed that we need to cover like acronym wise before we dive into this thing.
I think we're good.
Good?
That's good.
All right. And we are going to go through every section, but some other kind of key things to keep in mind before we deep dive sections, starting with occasions, right? So anytime you do a finish sport, you can look these up. If you want to read like the actual description of these things, if they're not self-explanatory enough for you, again, consult that order. But as you can see here on the screen, they're in order of importance. So each of these you'll have a finish sport with this occasion based on that reason. For his grade change, obviously, if you are getting promoted, that's going to be your occasion, right? But sometimes in life, things overlap, and that's where these things come into play, where you got promoted and you had a change of RS and you owe a finish sport. Obviously, that occasion is going to be a grade change because it is the top of the line. Now, common myth out there is like, this is very important, and it is and it isn't, and that's not you won't find that verbiage in the Marine Corps order. Don't go quote me on that, but occasions don't really matter. And what I mean by that is, as long as you're getting observed and have a finish sport, you're gonna be just fine, right? And that kind of matters. That doesn't apply in TDFD, right? You cannot get a from temporary duty report unless you get a TD finish report. Obviously, you're not going to transfer unless you transfer, but a lot of people get wrapped up in occasion, or you kind of want to submit something to amend something that has the wrong occasion. Occasion in the grand scheme of finish report and the PES is not really important, right? That comes into play a lot with annual, right? A lot of RSs is an RS mistake, where we have this thing that we need an annual finish report, right? Prime example is we have students that are scheduled out to graduate in March. I'm talking sergeants, right? So annual finish report that we're going to cover here, reporting periods, is the end of March 31st. We had a class that graduated like March 27th. And I stood on the podium and I told every single one of the students, like, hey, you're going to go back with an FE finish report dated March 27th. Some of your RSs are going to try to give you like a 3-day non-observed finish report because they think you need an annual finish report. You do not need an annual finish report. That is per the Marine Corps order, right? There's a lot of dates associated with it. And if another occasion happens like within 89 days of that past report, you can omit that occasion. Okay, you do not need an annual finish report. So occasions matter in regards to what it's for and how you're being evaluated, but they don't really matter. You know what I'm saying? Kind of know, because that's ambiguity at its finest right there, but whatever, right? And reserves, if there's any reservists out there, you guys are your own animal. But their annual acts just like the active annual RT, their reserve training. That one gets kind of weird when you can like omit it, but that's a lot of RS dependent stuff. But occasions are pretty much all that in a nutshell. Amanda, anything I missed there?
The only fun fact I like to share is the CMC Commandant Directed one, the DC. That's usually your admin filler, or if something really, really good happened to you, and in the PES it specifies what awards those would need to be, or if something extremely bad happened to you that needed to be evaluated immediately. So it could be good or bad, or it could just be an admin filler if you are one of those Marines with date gaps that exceed 30 days. That DC fitness report is kind of what fixes that. And a lot of Marines don't realize that. Other than that, that's it.
Right on.
All right.
All right. Reporting period. So since you brought up that evil word date gap, like that's one of everything recognizes that. Like everybody in Marine you talk to, like, oh, it's a date gap, right? All right, there is, and if there's any future students that's Twin Out Palms, I'm spoiler alert, all right? Mm-hmm. There is a difference in a date gap and a gap of dates, okay? A date gap, which is bad for your career, and the one that is not a myth and you want to avoid at all costs, is a gap in reports that is more than 30 days, okay? 31 days and above, you have a date gap. Now, why there's a difference in that, why that's important, is, you know, when we talk about reporting periods and we get to Section A and you see like from date and to date, and there's a Marine Corps-ism of like, we want, this report ends on June 23rd, my next report needs to, records screwed up and I'm not going to get promoted. False. Like I promise you, no promotion board is not going to select you because you have like a 1 day gap in fitness reports. I promise. Okay, it was more than that. You're not as good as you think. That's why you didn't get selected. It was not your 1 day gap. Okay. To make that make sense, UPCS coast to coast, Camp Lejeune, Twin Palms, because it's better than Pendleton, right? Great, like 6 or 7 days of travel. Now, technically, nobody's observing you during that period of travel. Is it common practice for a former RS or a new RS to carry you over and observe you in a fitness report wise? Yes. Is that legal per the PES? Yes, because like technically they know you may be in contact with. One could argue that you are being observed and you're reporting somebody, but technically per your orders, you're not. So if you really want to get black and white, you should have those gaps in your fitness report, like your master brief sheet. When you look at all those dates, technically you should have those. Okay. And it's not going to be the end of your career. Like they're going to see a transfer fitness report from the other occasion. This Marine transferred from this command to this command. Oh, this one's in Camp Lejeune. This one's in Twin Palms. Those 6 days, why wasn't he observed? Well, he was traveling across the country with a family. He raced 7 days. He wasn't being observed. Therefore, that is a gap of dates. Now, if that continues and you get past 31, that's a date gap. In your record, it will get flagged at MMRP. So when you pull the master brief sheet, it's going to tell you possible date gap. And then you either need to correct it because it was a mistake or it's a legitimate date gap. Either way, that goes in MMRP to get corrected.
The same thing goes with overlaps as well. So just like you can have date gaps, as a new Marine who might be new to fitness reports, maybe you did a fitness report and then you go in to select your new from date or your to date. And when you put your from date, you start it on the very same day you ended that last one instead of the day after. That could be considered an overlap, but yet again, the Marine Corps only recognizes and will take administrative action to correct it if it's more than 30 days. So 31 days or more for that as well. So if you see that in your MBS and it's 30 days and less, it's not something that you're going to do any corrective action on, just so y'all are tracking.
Yeah. And again, don't go twisting my words and say like, I want gaps of dates, because that's the one thing that will kind of distinguish you is like, hey, if your record all the way through from sergeant to master guns or sergeant major, your finish reports are end day, begin day, end day, begin day. Hey, your stuff looks that much tighter, and that's better for you as a whole, like whole Marine concept kind of deal. So pay attention to the dates, but if you're looking at your stuff after this class or later on, since reporting periods are ending right now, you start looking at stuff like, oh, I got a 2 day gap of dates. Like, don't freak out. I promise it's not the end of your career. That's a promise. That's a fact. You can quote me on that one, not the other stuff. All right.
And the biggest way to fix that is just take the few extra time before you create a new MROW to look at your previous dates for your other fitness report. That way you don't have an overlap. You don't have any gaps whatsoever. It's the best way to fix it or avoid it. That way you don't have to go back and realize later you do have a gap way longer than you thought.
That cover, I saw somebody comment that they wanted date gaps. Is that good on date gaps? Satisfied?
I think he was kind of co-signing Anthony Prague. I love that dude. He was also prior recruiter, you know how it works. But yeah, I think that's good.
All right. Hey, I have not dropped the questions in there, and we'll try to get them answered. But to keep this thing moving, right? Reporting periods, you're seeing it on the screen if you're looking at it. These things are staggered, just a few things in here. That is for that annual period. So this is, you have not gone anywhere. You haven't had a change of RS. Nothing's happened in a year time frame. The Marine Corps determined, hey, every Marine needs to be observed and evaluated on a yearly basis. So we have these annual reporting periods. They're staggered like this, in 2 parts. One is it kind of helps for RSs who may be evaluating different ranks. That's a little bit of it. It's everybody's best guess. But the real answer is they're staggered for boards. So each of these reporting periods end roughly 90 days or 3 months roughly before that next rank's promotion board. So sergeants in March, April, May, and June. That's when those zones are going to July timeframe. So right now, that is done that way, and that is why the Marine Corps order puts such an emphasis on timeliness, and why people always preach like, hey, your finished report's not done. I need it done by March 31st. Like, don't wait around. Those promotion boards are briefing your most recent fit rep. They have to. Okay, so if you miss that annual reporting period, and it's not done in a timely manner, which is 30 days, 60 days if you're adverse, but 30 days for a normal annual report or any report. If it's not done and completed in time, it's not going to be in that board. Because if you read those more admins, it even says in there, like, hey, anything after this day is not on the board. Timelines matter. Timeliness is very, very important for not only the MRO, but also the RS. And it's one of those, this is where that old adage is absolutely true. Nobody cares about your career more than you. So you have access to see inside of APES when it stops being an MROW, Marine Report on Worksheet, and becomes an actual finish report. It will say, pending that RS or pending that RO. The RS may not know, the RO may not know. That's for you to kind of knock on the door, send an email. Hey, sir, ma'am, we're getting close to the board. I'm in zone. Can you finish my finish report? What's going on? Hey, the Marine Corps order said you got 30 days. We're at day 47. This is a problem. And tap on those senior enlisted to help you out. But that's the significance of these reporting periods, and they're there for a reason. So don't mess around with timelines. Any additions?
The only addition I have with that is talking about the board is that is your whole point of, that's one of the main parts of your fitness reports is these evaluations that go off of your report average and your collective report averages, as well as the actual comments when we get there. That is what is being briefed within your 3 minutes. That ultimately holds a lot of weight on if you should be retained, if you should be promoted, and pretty much what your future in the Marine Corps is going to look like. So these evaluations do hold a significant amount. And the Commandant takes a lot of, he actually manages our performance evaluation systems and makes changes to make sure it's as accurate and not inflated, and has a checks and balance system to make it as fair for the Marines receiving fitness reports as possible. So I think that's a good time to let's go ahead and lay that on the table.
All right, right on. All right, now the good stuff, right? So that's enough background. Let's dive sections. So that first section, the Marine reported on MRO. This is where things start with you after you finagle your way through APED and you finally find your RS because you don't know the last 5 and you got to track down everything. And what was the date of my last one? And now you're like 3 days into finally getting around to Section A. All right, most of this stuff is auto-populated except for those red boxes you see on the screen. So those are really the only thing we're going to talk about here. And then I know Amanda's got some stuff to highlight down in Section A. But that duty assignment and your build MOS are not going to be, those are free form kind of things that you can fill in. And that really only applies if like you're doing something outside of your job. Okay, so that duty assignment is going to be blank. That is free text. Put it in, you can, the RS can. And that's really if you're doing something that's different. For like the one that I have is I have one finish report that is different from my primary MOS where I by trade am a max out planner. This one, it was like 2 finish reports. I was acting and being evaluated as an operations chief. Okay, so however you're being evaluated during that reporting period, that's why it's right beside those dates. So from date A to date B, what were you assigned to do? And if whatever that is, whether it's your primary MOS, a build MOS, if you were fapped out to a rifle range and you were a coach, whatever you were doing to be evaluated between those dates goes in that duty assignment box. Now, if that corresponds to a different billet and you have been officially assigned a billet MOS that corresponds to that duty assignment, make sure that thing matches. That's another one of those freebies where you may do it and the next Marine that's in zone with you doesn't do it. And that's just one more way for you to distinguish yourself as superior to your competition. I mean, because promotion system in the Marine Corps is competitive. So, not that I'm not saying if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? This isn't cheating. this is per the order, right? This is not cheating. This is approved. Do everything you can to make yourself better than that next Marine. And this is one of those things that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. They either neglect little box H up there or just don't know it exists, right? And kind of the same thing for box 9, duty preference, the third red box. Per the order, it's optional. So you do not need to put anything in this box. But this is a free opportunity to show the Marine Corps what you want, right? You can, each unit in the Marine Corps has their very own specific MCC. Your S1 has that list. You may be able to Google it. I don't know that one, but I know for a fact your S1 can produce that list. You can put a specific unit code in that box and it will populate in there. Like if you want to come to Twin Out Palm Staff Still Academy, JBJ, drop it in there on your next report, and we'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Or it has a lookup box, and you can kind of do your own lookup and just keep generic, like Fleet Marine Force East Coast, Fleet Marine Force West Coast, stuff like that. This is your opportunity to show, I want to grow, I want to expand my career, or I want to dodge the operating forces, or I want to go to school. So you can kind of show what you are looking at and your kind of growth mindset. To go into a whole story or tell you who it was, but I do know of a personal friend of mine who their re-enlistment came down to this box. They were in a competitive MOS. One staff, and these are staff and SEALs. These are not first-term Marines, right? Marine A, Marine B, very, very competitive. They went to this box to decide who got one boat space, and a staff and SEAL exited the Marine Corps because the other guy was better. So optional, do with it what you want, but my warning to you, it's on there for a reason. So take the time to fill it out. But everything else auto-populated. That box 5, 6, and 7 there in the middle. MRO can't touch. That's for the RS, right? So if it's a non-observed report, extended, meaning that like another occasion happened, and we just extend an annual finish report, or if it was adverse, they'll check that. Same thing in box 6, and then 7, you're automatically going to be recommended for promotion unless that RS goes in there and does no. So 5, 6, and 7, the MRO can't touch. The rest of it auto-populated, and you can change if necessary.
Okay. On block 8, just so we're tracking, where it says your qual, your PFT, your rifle qual, your PFT, and your CFT, that's only going to take place if it happened during the reporting period, meaning it happened from your from date and your to date that you selected. That's the only time you want to put that there. What's always going to go there is your height, weight, and if you had to get taped, your body fat. Now, I realize there's a new thing going on where if you have a 285 or 285 on your PFT and a 285 on your CFT, that you are now exempt from height and weight standards, meaning even if you don't tape or if you're over, you're not put on BCP. You still get heighted, you still get weighted, and you're still going to get taped. When you go into your RS comments, there's just going to be a mandatory directed comment that's going to have to state Marine is exempt from height and weight standards, so is in standards due to having a 285 and 285. And there's going to be actual verbiage that your RS has to put in there to kind of clarify that. But while your rifle, your PFT, and your CFT only goes in if they happen during that reporting period, you will always have a height and a weight. And if you qualify to get taped, then that body fat will go there as well. Okay. Obviously, if you are pregnant or have another code on height and weight, or why you did not do your PFT and CFT and it was supposed to be done during that reporting period, you would either have like an NMED code for medical, or another kind of justification saying why it's not there if it's supposed to be there. And yet again, your RS will have to make some markings on that. So anything that is out of the ordinary in this section A is usually a directed mandatory comment that reporting senior has to make later to justify why something isn't how it's supposed to be or is different out of the normal for section A, for example.
All right. All right, moving on. So A is easy, right? Just already filled out for you. Keep it from sections B and C, everybody's favorite, right? But also another very misunderstood section of the finish report. So not sure if I said it before or not, but this is where I burst everybody's bubble. And everybody likes to do this part because like they got a 1296 character count in your major accomplishments. Like, oh, I can't fit everything in there. The Marine Corps is going to think I'm not good, right? This is not your finish report. All right. MRO doesn't own your finish report. The RS does. This is the RS's evaluation. So what you put in here matters not as much as every Marine likes to think it matters. All right. And that'll make more sense by the time we're done on this one. But that billet description, that is determined by you and the RS. And that should be a two-way street, maybe like 75-25, because the RS does on that evaluation. So it's that RS's job to counsel you the day one they meet you, technically within 30 days, if you want to talk order specific, right? To counsel you and let you know what their expectations are. Hey, here's why you're at this unit. Here's your billet. Here's what you should be doing. And here's how I'm going to evaluate you, right? it becomes a two-way street in the fact that they may or may not be that familiar with your MOS. So things they miss or things you think you should be doing per like your training standards, those are the times to be like, sir, ma'am, I got it. I got your expectations. I also know for a fact that I'm going to have to do this just based on the technicality of our MOSs, because some MOSs are pretty technical in nature, and some RSs may not know that. So it is a two-way street. It can be modified all the way up to, so what you decide on day one, doesn't have to be what is actually on your finish report. This thing can be modified until it becomes a finish report by an RP, okay? So you bulletize that thing, you list it out. What are you kind of doing in that billet? What are you supposed to be doing? What is your RS expect of you? You see there, like, what you're looking for are verbs, those action words that actually describe some type of action. Like, I'm supervising people, I'm maintaining this amount of equipment, I'm advising commander on this, anything that speaks to an action. Okay. Down below it, right below it, is that major accomplishments. This is where you quantify all that stuff that you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Quantifying is quantifying whether it's good or bad, right? But you need to be specific, and quantifying remarks and specific is numbers, percentages, total, all kinds of stuff that is actually how well, how poor you did it. Key to that and why that start is accuracy, right? Back to section A and that from date to date, the only thing you are putting in section C are things you actually did in that reporting period. It doesn't matter if you saved the Marine Corps $3 billion last year. If those dates don't cover last year, leave it out. Same thing applies to section A, when she's talking about PFT and CFT. You run a 305 PFT one year. If it didn't occur in that date gap, or that date, the reporting period, it's not going in there. Okay. So be accurate, be descriptive. But the key thing here that a lot of Marines don't know is this is going to your RS. Marines write in here and they fill up that character count and they complain about not having the space because they think they're writing to the promotion board. You are not writing to the promotion board in your section C. You are writing to your RS. It's a question I get a lot too, is hey, my RS told me to just leave it brief. My RS told me to put very basic comments in there, but the promotions board is going to see it. Yes, your promotion board can see it. Will they look at it? Very unlikely. Okay, they can see it, they may look at it, but if you look at it from a objective reality standpoint, is every Marine in the Marine Corps is fluffing this up and writing stuff that probably may not be true. Should it be true? Absolutely. The order says it's got to be true, it's got to be accurate, right? But completed 100% of annual training requirements for my section, that sounds really good. But when your section is one Marine and that one Marine ran a PFT, which is an annual requirement, okay, big dog, yeah, you're 100% complete because one dude ran a PFT. Great. Awesome. Yeah. So a promotion board is not going to rely on your personal accomplishment statement. They're going to rely on that RS or RO comments to paint a picture. So this is going from you to make it look good, give it time, because yes, you want to make yourself sound good. But if a RS is telling you something specific, or you start running out of character count, just break it down and just be straight to the facts with your quantifying remarks, but be accurate. But don't stop stressing. You got enough stress in your life. I promise you, all Marines have stress in their life. You got enough stress. You can stop stressing over your major accomplishments on your finish report.
Okay.
Anything to add?
I don't have anything to add for this one.
The only thing I would say is I definitely heard of people for this particular section, they were unaware of not the intent of this section, but the full intent / effect of this section, that you're speaking to your RS. So I've had a couple people actually talk to me about it, and I had to explain that part to them as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people get confused because obviously all your fitness reports are stowed into your OMPF. So yes, it can be accessed, but that's not what they're pulling for the board and what they're briefing you within those 3 minutes. They're briefing your RSs and your ROs comments from your fitness reports from that grade when you're in zone for promotion to the next grade.
Yeah. One more rationale, not that we need it, but in case the other example didn't make sense to somebody out there, Take supply chiefs, for instance, okay? I write the RS for my supply chief who has a very small inventory, okay? Compare that to another supply chief out in a Fleet Marine Force unit that has like millions and millions of dollars of inventory, where my guy's got 100,000 on a good day, right? 100% accountability to him and 100% accountability to this dude over here are drastically different, but they're competing for the same spot, right? But if you compare numbers, this guy puts $7 million, and this guy puts $7,000. That's not fair either. So stuff like that, and the fact that your RS on your finish board, that's why these accomplishments are not going to weigh anything on a promotion board, because everybody's situation is different. And I don't care if it was 7,000 or 7 million. I care about your performance. And an RS is going to evaluate a Marine on performance, regardless of monetary value, regardless of amount of given your Marines. You should be giving your unit the same respect, the same work effort, whether you got this much responsibility or this much responsibility. And that's what we care about. That's why we care about RS comments, because everybody's getting evaluated regardless of what it is. Good. These final boxes, okay? So PME, self-education, and then the other box at the bottom of that, MROW. These two are another example of how your RS owns the finish sport and you're not writing to the board, but yet to them. If you didn't know it, and you can go back and fact check me, you can look at any of your completed finish sports. These will not be on there. These only occur inside the MROW, only inside of APES. Once this thing reaches MMRP and they make it a finish sport, they're gone. So anything your RS may or may not know about, or anything they may know about, you still want to put in there just to remind them that you did during this reporting period in regard, like self-education. If you're in college and you did 3 classes, you didn't get a degree complete, that's the spot to put this. Don't waste those character counts in your billet, major accomplishments. That's not your billet. Your billet's not to go to school. It belongs in self-education. Hey, completed this college class, this college class, this college class. RS can see it, take it into consideration when they evaluate you. Same thing for other. Now, volunteered on Adopt a Street, and from this day, I volunteered this many hours, or I coached my kids' soccer league every week for 2 months, right? Stuff that you're doing outside of work that they need to take into consideration, put it here, let the RS know about it. And again, it's not going on that finish report. So don't stress over this one either.
The biggest thing, it validates from why your billet accomplishments and your billet description doesn't need to be fluffed or be a stressor in your life, is because your Marine reported on worksheet, which is what you're working on all the way up until this point, is directly for your reporting senior. That's for him to gather all information to write his comments in his section, and when that time comes. So that just validates further what Seth is trying to say here. All right, guys. So now we're going to move into the actual grading. A lot of people are like, oh, how do I become your number one, or my report average, or where am I falling? This is kind of where this stuff starts. So it starts with these 14 attributes, and this is what you're evaluated on. In most cases, most Marines who are not writing fitness reports are going to be graded on 13 attributes and not 14. So section H will normally be a grading period of an H, meaning non-observed, for that certain attribute. So if there's an attribute your RS feels like they haven't graded you on, they'll be giving you an H in the grading block, not this H for fulfillment of evaluation responsibilities. That falls for if you're writing fitness reports. You can move on. Do you have anything? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, actually, I have a real quick question. I'm sorry. Do you mind going back a slide? So one thing I've heard before is the whole spot on section E, when they start talking about individual character and they start talking about courage. So some things that I've heard about courage is when you're not deployed, it's kind of hard to see when you exhibit courage. And what can you tell to either the RSs that kind of give that, or even the staff and COs that kind of justify not being able to properly grade someone on courage because they're not deployed?
I would refer the RS directly to the order, where it talks about how his grading philosophy is supposed to be. So your RS has a grading profile and a grading philosophy. And how this works is, let's say this RS is in an infantry battalion and he's grading infantry Marines who are doing X, Y, and Z. And obviously they're displaying courage in here and there. So obviously they're they have a good baseline of how to grade you on such things. And then the same RS becomes a company commander somewhere at an IPAC, and he's dealing with 0111 majorities, and he's now the reporting senior to them. Well, how does he grade these Marines on courage, who are infantry Marines, and these Marines on their MOS of 0111? He has to depict that. He has to grade them on their assigned billet during that reporting time frame. That's why there's a type of fitness report, which would be C for combat, J for joint, B for both, because the way they display courage and how they should be displayed on courage, it gives the members of the board to understand, okay, this Marine got an E in courage for a combat fitness report. Okay. And it allows them room for that RS not to hold oh, I have to only grade my C for courages for my infantry Marines. He's allowed that room for flex. He has to keep in mind that he's grading the Marine on their courage is going to look different. The courage for an infantry Marine in a combat setting is going to be way different than a Marine in an IPAC who maybe has to go talk to hires about getting a pay issue fixed, or how to have that intestinal fortitude and that individual character to be effective under stress as a young sergeant. If there's a colonel in here being like, hey, I'm getting paid wrong, help me out. So I think that's kind of how I was taught to teach it. And that was in Marine Corps order. I think it's chapter 4 when it talks about how the RS's grading philosophy should go. And there's a whole bunch of information for them. Seth, were you told anything different or anything about that?
No. So just real quick on that. So she's absolutely right. From an RS perspective, the Marine Corps order is very, very clear on what an RS should do. And there's a lot of goals. If you go deep into that order and you research what the PES is about, there's a lot of goals that RSs have to do and what they should do. But to answer that question specifically, you go into the courage box on the actual PARs, right? On that finish report for the courage box, you find it. There's going to be no verbiage in there about responding under fire, right? Courage is courage to that point. And that's why that billet description, what were you doing from this reporting period, that matters. And courage from this day to this day in this job is no different than courage from this day to this day with bullets flying at you, right? And you can argue that it's different types of courage, but at the heart of it, courage is courage. And nowhere in the PARs is well, courage only applies when you're in combat. No, right. There are multiple ways to show courage. And did you do it? Now, unfortunately, this may be one of those kind of things where a lot of RSs may be hey, you're just kind of average and you're a C or a D, and that's fine because you never really had an opportunity to show any courage. Your job just doesn't have it. And yes, you're courageous. So, some of these kind of generic or broad categories is probably a better term. They may only be affected outside of that average to slightly above average if you demonstrate you cannot do it, right? So they're probably going to stay in that C range for most Marines and only go down. But the RS specifically is charged to evaluate you on a fair basis compared to you, a whole Marine concept, date A, date B, and that word picture. It's not social. It's not, hey, you're in zone and you're in combat. Yeah, you're courageous because you led a patrol. That's great, dog. But that takes the same amount of courage here as it would over here, because you're just charged to do different things. And if you treated people differently, that's not legitimately fair, right? It is fair and it isn't fair, but that's a very deeper conversation. And it's, you ask 3 people their opinion, you get 3 different answers, So, but long story, kind of not as long. Courage is different based on that billet description. What are you doing this day to this day? And the RS is charged per that order to affect you. So if you did run that situation where RS told a Marine that, hey, you're not in combat, you're in the admin shop, you're at IPAC. Well, hey sir, I got it, but the Marine Corps order says that I need to be evaluated fairly based on what I was doing, and I showed courage here. It may not be the courage in the face of combative enemy, but it was courage in the face of adversity because my Marine got in trouble, or I had to face the lieutenant colonel, blah, blah. I've shown courage. Can you please reevaluate me here? It's worth the conversation.
And there's a small example of that in the 1610 in that Marine Corps order, where it talks about how an RS needs to kind of be aware of how these attributes apply to all MOSs. That way he can grade them effectively. There's a small example on that.
Nice. Thank you.
No problem. So then after that, so on these attributes, you then get a grading score from an A through a G. Remember, I told you the H is if it's not observed, that's where you'll fall. For example, for the evaluations, I don't write fitness reports. So on the attribute that is labeled H, I would also receive an H because I'm non-observed in writing evaluations. But A through G all holds, and you can see it on the slide, they all hold that numerical value. And each numerical value is a 1 through 7. Why the Marine Corps decided to do alpha, like an alphabet type of system, and then give it a numerical, like I don't know why we just couldn't, hey, if they fall adverse, label them a 1 and then a 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. But we didn't do that. So just, it's important to remember that A holds a numerical value of 1. And then a B, a 2, all the way up until G to which equals a 7. Remember, I told you in most cases there's 13 attributes you're actually graded on, because most Marines don't fall under that H unless they're writing evaluations. So how you would find your report average is taking which grade you got on each attributes. If it's an A through a G, and you would apply that numerical value that it holds, and you would add each one together, and then you would divide it by the total number of attributes you were graded on. So if you write fitness reports, you'd probably be dividing it by 14 attributes because you were graded on all 14. If you're not writing fitness reports, you would add each one of your fitness report attributes that your RS graded you on. You would add each of them together, and then you would divide it by 13. And what that's going to get you is that's going to get you that report average. That report average will never change. But whenever you go into the master brief sheet, you kind of get into that living document. And we'll be going into master brief sheets at another live session where you can kind of understand how that report average holds weight and then what that means. But it's important to know the performance anchor rating system, and each letter grade they give you holds a value which actually gives you that report average. So if you want to be number 1 on his profile or this and that, that's where this comes from, is this report average that's being developed by adding your attributes you're graded on, and then dividing it by the total number. Seth, do you have anything to add on performance anchor rating systems?
No, because each RS is going to have their own kind of grading philosophy. Again, charge to be fair, charge to treat every Marine the same way, through the same lens, regardless of MOS. Personally, as an RS, right, these boxes, these verbiage is there for a reason. So when I'm evaluating a Marine, it's up to me to keep the same kind of focus and the same purview that I'm looking, but I'm just going to read that box, and I'm going to start writing that D category. Like, I'm going to read the words, and I'm going to think about Marine A in my head, and I'm going to say, hey, does this describe this Marine? And if the answer to that is it describes that Marine perfectly, it's a D. If I'm like, hey, Marine's a little bit better than this, I read the next box. They're not quite to that box, but they're better than this, and they're not as good as this. That's an E, right? That's kind of a very basic breakdown of how that's doing. And there's a lot more factors to any RS out there that's going to watch this. I understand there's a lot more to it. I do have a profile. I've written more than one finish report. So there's a lot more factors to it. There's a lot of playing around when it comes to averages and how to do it. But per the order, it is not, you don't grade to an average, right? You grade between those dates, their performance based on these word pictures of the pars. But that's just a little behind the scenes of what your RS should be doing. Is if that box describes you, that's the grade you're getting. We'll go here based on what you did performance-wise during this period. But other than that, she's spot on it. That's just an RS perspective.
And then just to kind of add on that, I was a young Marine and I didn't realize this. The verbiage of, hey, you're brand new here and I want to give you room for improvement, so I'm going to grade you here. There's actually verbiage within the Marine Corps order that says that you should be evaluated on your actual performance from that reporting period. And just remember, this is usually the first officer in your chain of command. So y'all should have a pretty good working relationship. just remember, sometimes this person might be a newer officer, and it's your job to know the Marine Corps order if you are a Marine being reported on, and to be able to have that conversation with your RS, like, sir, you need to, according to the PES, please grade me upon my performance during these dates. Don't grade me as a new, hey, you're going to go here because you're a new guy or you're new to the unit. Grade me on my performance and how you think I fall within this. Is one thing that I learned later, a little bit later than probably I should have in my Marine Corps career.
Right.
So be aware of the PES for sure. Cool. So this is your reporting senior remarks. Your reporting senior, remember, y'all are working greatly together, so they should have eyes on supervision on a more recent basis. So he's going to be able to paint that picture on your performance as a whole Marine. So remember those attributes they're grading you on? Now they're going to put that word picture to that. Now, I mentioned earlier, they're in charge of your section A of your MROW. So that first part that Seth went over, that part, anything that needs justification, AKA, like I mentioned, the height and weight, and you have a 285 and 285 that's in the system and you're overweight, they would put that mandatory directed comment in there stating, hey, MRO is exempt from height and weight standards due to a CFT and PFT score over a 285, period. That way, when a board member's pulling your fitness reports and see this height and weight, they can then go down the comments and be like, okay, it's justified. If they don't see a PFT and CFT in the system, they can kind of see why you didn't run a PFT and CFT if it should have been done during that reporting period. Okay. So that's what those requirements. So there's mandatory, the directed comments is anything that needs additional justification from section A. And there's a list of directed comments and verbiage in the Marine Corps order that the reporting senior has to use and speak on. So it's very common that reporting seniors usually have the Marine Corps order out and looking at, okay, how do I need to word this comment? So those are your directed comments that need proper justification. Then the mandatory comments kind of come in with that whole Marine concept. So here talking on promote ahead of peers, should have been promoted yesterday, already performing as a gunnery sergeant, and then going over your performance, your proficiency, that individual character, look at the attributes that you're being graded on. He's probably speaking and capturing that more personally through his word picture. And additional comments could be those last comments on how he seems appropriate, which would be promote ahead of peers, should promote it yesterday, or would be a great candidate for officer candidate school, for example, or based off of your performance. Seth, do you have anything to add that I didn't cover on the comments? Yeah, the velvet daggers. All right. Do you want to start this one?
Yeah. So velvet daggers, another one of those terms everybody knows about. Those are found in that section I that you just covered. So velvet daggers are important. They are real, and they're always found there. Your RO's really not going to have one because your RO is kind of just making some either generic comments or amplifying comments to how well you did. You won't find velvet daggers in there. All that is, for those that may not know, it's just like a passive aggressive comment, just like the examples you see here, right? This Marine is one of the best Marines I ever served with. Promote with peers. That's a contradictory statement to where I'm saying like you're kind of okay. Or Marine excels at BCP PT. Like the untrained eye, you're like, oh man, I excel at something, right? But then you look at that a little bit, like apply some critical thinking to that. Okay, you're like, hey, I excel at BCP. That's not a good thing. Okay, it's good that you're improving. Okay, excelling at BCP is good. Keep up the good progress, but you shouldn't be in BCP in the first place. Okay, so it's not really good. That's a very soft way. That's why I say velvet dagger in the back. It's a soft blow to you. Okay. On that example of promote with peers, quick disclaimer: sometimes velvet daggers, yes, are real. Sometimes they're unintentional. Okay. The RS may be junior, or an RS just may make a comment like that. Just put yourself in their shoes. The example I like to use is at a Staff Hill Academy, where RRS, who is better than this, but an RS could, at a certain spot, they'll be evaluating a group of like 4 sergeants, staff sergeants, whatever the rank is, right? These 4 staff sergeants I have are like very above that. They are superior Marines. to your average. They are all above average. That peer group that I'm evaluating, a comment like promote with peers is meant to be a positive. Like, hey, if I write that on your finish report and you're one of my 4 staff sergeants, you're like, hey, that's good because my peers are all like tier 1 Marine. As much as you are writing to the RS is writing to that promotion board. So that's why you need to recognize velvet daggers and be able to identify them so that you can, if you read one, you can have that conversation with the RS of like, hey, sir, ma'am, I realize that my peer group is very like above average. So thank you for thinking highly of us and writing this. However, the promotion board doesn't know my peer group. The promotion board sees this and they're comparing me to every sergeant or staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, to which the average is not very good. Like, let's be real, okay? The average Marine is not where it should be, and that's up for debate too. But you don't want to promote with peers. You don't want to be average. You always want to be above average. So identifying those, having a conversation. But again, my warning me to you is careful what you ask for. You see something that may be a velvet dagger, and you puff out your chest, and you go into the office and, hey, sir, you wrote promote with peers, and I think I'm better than that. And the lieutenant or captain says, hey, Devil Dog, have a seat. And they have a nice like kneecap heart to heart with you. Careful what you ask for, right? But you need to recognize them, and it's worth the conversation.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing about the promote with peers thing. Another thing, moving past velvet daggers back to additional comments, is if you remember that time where you submit those that word picture up to him about continuing education, college. That's where he can also write additional comments about you continuing your education and stuff as well. Because remember, what you write in your PME and self-education doesn't go any further than him. So that's where those comments should go if he wants to add additional comments on you. All right, so moving on to the reviewing officer here. And so everything we talked about prior was Section A, you doing in your MROW, you submitting your MROW to your reporting senior, and then boom, going to your reviewing officer. So your reviewing officer usually mentors and guides your reporting senior because that person might be new at writing fitness reports. So he might familiarize them with the PES and making sure they're working things in a timely manner to make sure it gets to them. Your reviewing officer is the next officer in the chain of command, and that person is usually writing fitness reports on your reporting senior. So he's evaluating your reporting senior on how he evaluates in regards of timeliness, inflation, and stuff like that. So that's important of another checks and balance that exists there. So your comparative assessment, which a lot of Marines call the Christmas tree, it's an 8-block where your reviewing officer then places you amongst where he thinks you fall against other peers of yours within the same grade as you. So these are all sergeants where he would think you fell if you're a rank of sergeant, and he's going to place you somewhere on that comparative assessment. Once he places you there, that spot is forever there. When we go into master brief sheets, you will see that where your peers fall amongst you, according to your reviewing officer, can change once he continues to write fitness reports. But you will forever be in the block on the comparative assessment where he puts you at. So in this case, this Marine is one of the eminently qualified. He's at the very top. They call that an 8-block, and that's exactly where you should strive to be. Just because you're in the 8-block does not mean necessarily you have an accelerated fitness report. They can deem an accelerated fitness report, and we'll actually talk about what an accelerated fitness report in the next slide, I believe. But basically, this is just your RO's comment, places you where he thinks that you fall compared to other Marines, and then they write RO comments. Your reviewing officer will write comments, and this is over his comment where the RS has more of a direct working relationship with you is more on your performance, your proficiencies, and those attributes. Your RO is more on your professional abilities and the potential you have to serve in higher billets, and your potential for retention, retainment, and promotion. These are going to be mostly his comments. So they might be a little bit more broader than your reporting senior, but because he doesn't have specific attributes he graded you on, but he's going to talk to you as a whole picture. And that's kind of where he comes in. Seth, do you have anything extra?
Just real quick, and and the only reason I want to throw this out there is because a lot of students will ask it, right? Where if the board's paying attention to my RS comments, but my RS is a brand new lieutenant who doesn't even have a profile yet, is it bad or good, right? That's why, and this comes from career counselors and people who have sit on boards, is in instances like that, they're going to recognize that. These promotion boards are 21 like senior enlisted individuals with oversight from the commission side who are experienced. They're going to recognize when a RS is junior or doesn't have a profile. And then in those cases, they're going to go to RO comments who are going to be a little bit more senior in grade. If you have a senior RS, those RS comments are going to weigh heavily, amplified by an RO. So if you do have a very, very junior RS, their comments are read, their comments give weight. However, they're going to rely more on that RO section. So on that same token, if it's a non-concur and you see that between RO and RS, not in the world, that's more of a for promotion board to figure out. But these things usually go hand in hand, just for the reason Amanda explained, is they have a better relationship than you and your RS or you and your RO. Is they're going to work side by side.
Yeah. And just to wrap up these comments, the biggest thing is whenever you are in zone for promotion or in the below and selected to be briefed or in the above zone, the biggest thing is these comments, a board convenes and each board member gets assigned so many packages to go through and go through their OMPF, go through their master brief sheet, and they prepare a 3-minute brief. Well, part of this 3-minute brief, they're actually going through your OMPF and they're picking fitness reports. They mostly pick the most recent one, and they pick of other ones with a lot of months of observation. And they pick RS comments first, and they brief those, and they say comments from the RS, and they just start reading them off. And then it's multiple fitness reports. So it's not just one fitness report. They're going through and picking quite a few of your RS comments that they want to brief. Then they do the same thing for the reviewing officer. And then they're going to rate you from a 1 through a 6. So that's how this ties into the promotion board process, in case you were curious. So moving along to if you need an addendum page. So there's a word count on your billet description, bill accomplishments. You're not using this extra page for that. Your RS can only use this page if he has mandatory directed comments to make that have to be made for justification purposes, and he can't stay within his word count. He can use the addendum page. Other things this addendum page is used for is, let's start with the bad first. So chapter 5 of the PES manual goes into detail of adverse fitness reports and what goes into that. And there's a checks and balance, and everything has to be accurate. And this addendum page is used for adverse fitness reports, for the additional comments, as well as your third officer citer, who is actually a neutral third party that reviews the fitness report. Make sure it goes back in the Marine being reported on as tracking. He or she is receiving an adverse fitness report, as well as any statements that need to be made. And any type and justification on why the report is adverse. Now let's talk about the good things. If an accelerated fitness report is warranted, you also need a lot of justification on why this is an accelerated report. An accelerated report, a lot of Marines get confused. They're like, oh, this is a free look. Not necessarily, guys. If you're already in the zone and you get an accelerated report, that's great. You're going to stay in the zone. That fitness report's probably going to have a lot of the comments that are going to be briefed, and it's going to be mentioned that you got an accelerated report. If you are not anywhere near the zones and you got an accelerated report, what's going to happen is you're going to be pushed to the below zone. This only applies if you're not in any other zones. If you weren't going to be in zone, you're going to be moved to the below zone. When you're in the below zone, you're not given a free look. What happens is the president of the board goes through and he ciphers through those, and he picks your heavy hitters of who are going to get briefed at that point, and he briefs them. He or she briefs them as that. So that's the biggest thing of what an accelerated fitness report is. It's not necessarily a free look, but if you're not in the zones, they are saying, hey, we should be looking at this Marine for promotion. Like I said, you could be in RS's number 1 and you could be in the 8 block and that report not necessarily be accelerated. Another thing the addendum page could be is if you have markings from your RS that rate an F or a G, they have to justify those markings and talk about why they gave you an F or a G. I think that covers everything for the addendum page. Seth, do you have any additional information?
Yeah, this one's easy, right? It's there if you need it. I think the only thing that happens is we didn't talk adversity, but anything that constitutes adversity, your statement, if you choose to make one, come back on an addendum page. But I mean, you're sitting on the screen, you can look at a fit rep for why you would ever have an addendum page. So.
Oh yeah, let's hit. So just real quick, and this is like just a blurb. If you have an adverse report, or if you have a Marine subject of an adverse report, I don't know where Marines get this. Oh, if I didn't sign it, it didn't happen. No, that's incorrect. What happens if you don't sign a fitness report is you're saying, hey, I agree with it. It's true, whatever. And then at that point, you're refusing, you're losing your right to make a statement. A statement isn't necessarily being like, yeah, this didn't happen, like this is BS. A statement is maybe taking ownership of it and talk about your corrective action you're going to take to not in that spot. Because if you do that, what's going to happen is the member of the board is going to be able to be like, hey, you received an adverse report, but this Marine did X, Y, and Z, and this is the rebuttal. So it's not considered a rebuttal. It's called a statement. It is taking ownership, giving your side, or maybe it was BS and maybe you're writing about why it's BS. But if that's the case, you should probably be trying to get that fitness report pulled through corrective action, which is a whole nother subject. See Chapter 10 on the PES.
Amanda, are you guys able to see that comment that I put on the screen? That's from Ronnie Hart.
Yes, absolutely. I can share my email with you, and I'd be more than happy to look at your MBS and kind of show you what you could be doing to be more competitive and where you're falling and how to read one. And we will be doing a class on how to properly read an MBS, hopefully in the near future, if Chris wants to have us.
Absolutely, we will.
Okay. And then I think that's it for addendum page then.
Hey, we made it. Oh man, hold on, let me go to the screen real quick. Wow. So is there anything you guys want to like close with as far as trends that you guys have seen on fitness reports, or things that like had the most misunderstanding about the actual fitness report to where you felt like you had to emphasize the most?
The only thing I have, and I tell every Marine this, it's your career and you need to care about it because no one else is going to care about it as much as what you should. So get into the PES, know the chapters, know if something applies to you. Don't rely on your reporting senior or RO to hold your hand. Their job is they're in your chain for reporting for an evaluation, but you need to know the ins and outs of how your evaluation works. And it's as simple as that. That's the biggest advice I have is it's your career. Care about it. Do what it takes to know how you're being evaluated, because a lot of your fitness reports and a lot what's on your master brief sheet is what's going to hold a lot of weight on if you're retained in the Marine Corps and if you're promoted. And no one's made it. You haven't made it. There's always room to grow. And the Marine Corps isn't going to just hold on to you just because. You better prove yourself every single day, and your evaluations need to show it. That's all I have for it, really.
About you, Seth, do you see any trends where you've seen the most issues where either people, such as you see how Ronnie actually brought up to see if you guys are able to actually evaluate a master brief sheet, but like, has anyone ever brought their, whether a sergeant that's being promoted to staff sergeant or a newly promoted, a corporal that's getting promoted to sergeant, or a newly sergeant where you're starting to do fitness reports? Have you seen any real trends of things, to where you've had the most issues with kind of helping people out with?
So a lot of the trends are I'll summarize about kind of not knowing, right? Where the new guys just kind of don't know. So best advice for that is to get in the order and learn, right? The reason I'm hesitant to kind of throw anything out there is people get wrapped around the promotion board, right? And our fit rep absolutely plays in that promotion board, but those promotion boards are 21 different people. Now, those promotion boards are as regulated as humanly possible, where the commandant through MMRP is going to give guidance. The president of that promotion board is going to give a spiel before they go, and they are charged explicitly to look at things a certain way, right? But it's a flavor of the week where these promotion boards are happening once a year for the next rank, and there's so many contributing factors as to are we downsizing, are we increasing Marine Corps, our MOS is closed, how many people retired, is adversity going to affect Marines this year, is tattoos going to affect Marines this year, and it's spur of the moment kind of stuff, and it's current flavor based on that promotion board. So for a trend to happen one year may not happen the next year. So as black and white as Marine Corps order is on PES, the promotion system is as black as white as can be, but by nature is kind of gray. So to answer specific questions, just like the one that's sent out there, like Chris has our emails, by all means send them to us. But if you have specific questions, you kind of need that whole picture to answer it, right? You need fitness boards that go into master brief sheets, and you have to paint that entire big picture thing of a Marine's career to really answer a tough question. The biggest trend, though, is probably misunderstandings, and a lot of trends I see on the negative side of things are really from RSs. Unfortunately, there's a lot of RSs that don't adhere to that order from things that I've seen from a Marine perspective when they bring me a fitness report or bring me a master brief sheet, and they're like, hey, this is why my RS did me that way. So that understanding for you being a trend translates into when you see something that's not right. Just like Amanda said, it's your career. So only you can go to that RS and have that conversation. Sir, ma'am, like I don't agree with what you're doing, and here's why. And then it's up to them to say, hey, you're right, or here's why I did that, or hey, thanks for calling me out, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then there are other options that we can talk about at a later class of DD 149s and MMRPs and PERBs and all that good stuff to pull a finish report. The process is out there, and I promise you that process is designed for the Marine, not the RS. So there are ways around it, but the only trend is self-induced harm. Marines not understanding the order and not getting in it. Like don't rely on your staff and COs that are telling you stuff. They're a wealth of knowledge. By all means, listen to them, but trust but verify. Right? Get in the order yourself, get familiar with it, and know the answer, because the answer is in Marine Corps Order 1610.7 Alpha. I promise you.
No, absolutely. So if you guys look down below inside the chat, I'm sorry I messed up the first time. I put Amanda and Seth's emails inside of the chat. So if you guys do have any questions or anything specifically that we went over today in today's workshop with the Marine Corps Fitness Report, please do not hesitate to contact them. Also, if you want to, same thing, if you want to send me questions, or if there's anything I need to, get a little bit more in depth with, or something you want me to find out an answer about, I can also help you guys on that as well. We're going to continue doing these type of workshops and also, classes on things that can specifically benefit the active duty military. This won't only be just the Marine Corps. I'm working with some Air Force, Navy, and Army as well. And I've already done one interview with the Coast Guard. But we're going to continue to push this whole veteran push. He says, all right, sir, sounds great. Thank you, Queen. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the comment. Thank you to everyone that took time out of their day to comment, show up, thumbs up, share it out, and all that good stuff. Your feedback, your comments, and everything you've done to help support the channel is highly appreciated. I know the two instructors that put a lot of time and effort into giving you guys as much information and taking time out of their day to push this information out to you guys. So I'll actually have, once this is done and we end the stream, I'll have this video start to get edited. We'll start pushing out into segments on YouTube as well. That way it's a little bit shorter and it's not like the full hour, and start chopping and kind of screwing a little bit of it so it's, straight to the point. But I just want to say thank you guys so much, you two, and we're definitely going to have a little goodie bag for you guys. I have my, he said, I'm for sure awaiting that master brief sheet class. Hey, Ruben T, we got you. We definitely got you. I'm blessed to have these two individuals that that love to give back. I mean, you can just tell by their passion and how they were teaching. I want to say thank you guys for joining us today as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And like I said, we have a couple more sections that we actually talked about, master brief sheet and a few other things, JPEGs as well, that we talked about doing in the near future. So I am definitely looking forward to working with you guys again. And like I said, right now, one of my partners that I have is actually in the middle of creating different things of merch. So once we get those goodie bags together, I'll definitely be sending you guys out something to show our appreciation here on Veteran Influencers. And, it's just a privilege to have you guys here on the platform.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. And if you guys need anything back from me, please do not hesitate to let me know. All right. Anything else you guys wanted to say?
No, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Salute to you guys and salute to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned. And like I said, we'll have this edited and put out on the different platforms. So thank you guys, and be on the lookout for the next for the future on Veteran Influencers. Peace.